The story of this superhero adventure begins with two friends, Dave and Mandy. Mandy is repeatedly shooting at Dave's body with various weapons, firing continuously without causing him any harm. He simply keeps falling down. Later, we find out that Dave is wearing a bulletproof jacket, which protects him from the bullets. But why is Mandy doing all this to Dave? We will find that out soon. At this moment, Mandy's stepfather, Marcos, comes to drop her off at school. As she gets out and heads towards the school, Marcos drives home in his car. However, instead of going to school, Mandy heads straight to her secret place. Inside this place, there are many costumes and fitness equipment where Mandy practices various fighting techniques and martial arts. This was a time when superheroes had become very popular in the entire city, and due to the rise in crime, even ordinary people wanted to become superheroes. Mandy was one of them. Her father was a superhero who had defeated many enemies, and now Mandy also wanted to become a supergirl who could help people and take down villains. She hardly attended school and often came here to practice. Mandy had even hacked the school server to show a 100% attendance record, and until now, her stepfather was unaware of her actions. Now we are introduced to a boy named Dave, who also studies at Mandy's school. Although they are good friends, only Dave knows that Mandy is skilled in martial arts and fighting techniques, and he secretly wants to be as strong as her. He goes directly to Mandy and requests her to teach him the fighting techniques she practices in her secret place. Mandy cannot refuse him because only she knows her secret, so she takes him to her secret room and begins training him without a second thought, teaching him everything she has been practicing all along. Now Dave has also started to adopt all the training with full concentration after school. We learn that the first scene where Mandy was shooting at Dave's bulletproof jacket was part of his training, determining whether he is ready for everything. However, Mandy's stepfather eventually finds out that she isn't going to school and is forming a team of superheroes to combat evil. He doesn't want her life to be in danger, so he advises her to give it up. But Mandy is not easily going to forget her goal. After several days of preparing Dave, he is somewhat ready, but it's necessary to test him. So, Mandy sends him into an alley as a wealthy person, where many thugs hang out, and he has to fight them. As he walks through the alley, the thugs surround him. Dave starts using all the techniques he has learned, but the sheer number of gangsters overwhelms him. One gang member approaches with a knife, ready to attack Dave, but just then, Mandy makes her entrance, dressed in her superhero costume. She quickly starts teaching the gangsters a lesson, and in her anger, she even cuts off one gang member's hand. After rescuing him, police officers arrive, so Dave tells Mandy to escape because the cops don't know him, and he can say he was just passing through when these thugs attacked him. Once everything is cleared up, Mandy leaves the scene, hiding her identity like any superhero would. She quickly makes her way home because her stepfather has learned from the news that a supergirl has taken down several criminals. He starts to suspect that it might be Mandy, so he rushes home as fast as he can. But before that, Mandy, while traveling, makes it home and pretends to sleep on her bed, claiming she feels sick and has been resting there. Mandy's father believes her, but suddenly he notices a bit of blood on Mandy's body, realizing that she had been out and is trying to become a superhero again. Her stepfather repeatedly explains to Mandy that this isn't safe for her life. He wants her to live a normal life like other girls. It might feel good for a while, but eventually, her enemies will increase. Meanwhile, we see a very wealthy family with a man named Chris. Chris's parents were very rich, but some time ago, his father was brutally murdered. Chris's father was also a superhero but had been involved in illegal activities, which led to his demise. Chris wants revenge for his father's death, so he asks his mother for permission to become a superhero. However, Chris's mother refuses and assigns a bodyguard to prevent him from leaving the house. Furious, Chris kicks a machine nearby, which unexpectedly malfunctions. His mother, who was sitting inside the machine resting, gets jolted and dies from the shock. Desperate to be free, Chris pays the bodyguard a large sum of money and instructs him to keep quiet about what happened. With this, Chris feels completely liberated, able to do whatever he wants, and now, after his mother's passing, the entire estate belongs to him. Back at school, Dave meets Mandy and asks to practice with her. However, Mandy tells Dave that she is no longer going to do any superhero work because her stepfather is saying her life is in danger, and she cannot bear to see him upset. Because of this, Mandy decides to stop working with Dave, but he cannot back down so easily. Becoming a superhero is his dream. After finishing all his training, Dave put on his costume and ventured out into the city to help people and take down bad guys. Everyone called Dave by the superhero name Kais, and he received a warm welcome because the citizens knew he had come to help them. During a conversation, Dave met another superhero named Dr. Gravity. Dr. Gravity mentioned that he is a professor at a school who teaches science. He carries a weapon that resembles a baseball bat, which has powers that allow it to make objects float in the air. However, Dr. Gravity didn't reveal much about his weapon to Dave. As they moved forward, a group of thugs suddenly appeared, attempting to rob them. Dave and Dr. Gravity quickly taught the thugs a lesson and fled the scene, as being a superhero has the disadvantage of not being able to appear in public for too long. Meanwhile, we see Mandy, whose stepfather introduces her to a girl named Blue, who studies at her school. Blue is an ordinary girl, and Marcos wants Mandy to spend time with normal people to become more like them. Soon, Mandy becomes friendly with Blue and her friends. At the same time, due to the growing friendship between Dr. Gravity and Chris, Dr. Gravity wants to include Chris in his team of superheroes. He takes Chris to meet the entire team, where superheroes with various abilities and costumes introduce themselves. Chris quickly gets along with them and becomes part of the team, as they work well together. Now we see Chris practicing fighting to strengthen himself. Although he isn't becoming strong quickly, after fighting with another fighter, he suffers a severe defeat. However, Chris didn't dismiss the fighter. Instead, he hired him to protect himself. Now Chris, dressed in a supervillain costume, wreaked havoc in various stores, but he still wasn't gaining any recognition. He desperately wanted to avenge his father and become famous throughout the area. Inside the school, Mandy appeared with her best friend Blue in front of all the girls performing for the cheerleading tryouts. Blue danced beautifully, capturing everyone's attention. But when it was Mandy's turn, she showcased her fighting skills, as if battling an enemy, combining all her fighting sequences into a dance routine that the audience seemed to love. All eyes were now on Mandy, and no one even asked about Blue. This sparked jealousy in Blue, who wanted to overshadow Mandy in any way possible. Meanwhile, Dave's team set out to help people continuously. Among the superheroes was a captain named Colonel. They all placed their weapons before them and vowed to help everyone and completely eradicate evil from the city. They had formed a superhero society. After daily training, a superhero from their team named Night Witch approached Dave directly and kissed him, as she had developed a liking for him. He enjoyed the moment, and the next day he told Mandy all about it but didn't say much about Night Witch. However, Dave urged Mandy to rejoin their team, saying they were the best and would achieve great feats in the future. But Mandy clearly stated that she wouldn't return to that work. Mandy was frustrated that Dave wasn't giving her time, so she intentionally called over a guy from the nearby area and asked him out on a date. They agreed, and now they would go on that date in the evening. Mandy was doing all this on purpose, so that Dave would stay away from her and not keep bothering her. Mandy felt bad about this and left. Now we see all the superheroes of the Justice Society, where the Colonel is briefing them about a mission. Some gangsters have taken many girls hostage, and they must rescue them without putting anyone in danger. Dave, the Colonel, and all the others set off towards the gangsters, and the superheroes begin attacking without fearing for their lives. The gangsters have guns, but they move forward while avoiding them. Night Witch and Dave work together to free all the girls and women captured by the gangsters. Gradually, their mission becomes successful, and everyone is pleased with their heroic act. The police also commend them for capturing such big gangsters, and their team is praised in the newspapers. Now we see Mandy, who has gone on a date with the same guy. But this guy is taking her deep into the forest. Suddenly, Blue and her friends from school appear in front of their car. Blue confronts Mandy, saying that the guy she's with is her boyfriend and that she had planned this entire scheme to make her suffer. Mandy feels hurt by this betrayal as they leave her alone in the middle of the forest. Regretting her decision, she goes straight to Dave and apologizes for what happened to her. He understands her well and calls her a strong girl. The next day, Mandy is shown wearing a beautiful dress, looking so good that everyone's attention is on her. Mandy notices that Blue is harassing some freshmen, so she tells one of the freshmen to leave and confronts Blue. Blue rudely tells Mandy that no matter how hard she tries, she will never be like her. Mandy simply replies that she doesn't want to be like her. Then, Mandy pulls out a small device from her bag that belonged to her father. And with this machine, she could make anyone vomit. Mandy immediately started using the device on Blue and her friends, causing them to start vomiting and feel quite embarrassed. Meanwhile, Chris got furious when he read about Dave's team, known as K-Cass, in the newspaper. Since Dave was Chris's enemy and had formed his superhero team first, Chris wanted to create his own team of villains. He began hiring various people, spending a lot of money, but he wanted to form a team of supervillains to eliminate all the superheroes and spread terror everywhere. Now, Chris's father also learns about his son's transformation into a superhero, who is helping people everywhere. Instead of feeling proud, Chris's father starts advising him to give up this path, but Chris couldn't easily forget everything. Chris then goes straight to the prison where he meets his uncle. He tells his uncle that he wants to form a team to eliminate all superheroes. Although his uncle discourages him from this, Chris wants to gather some ideas from him, which he does before leaving to combine his full team. We now see the superhero team captain, Colonel, who is attacked by Chris and his team members. They beat him severely, even cutting off his leg. Among Chris's team is a powerful woman named Mother Russia, who is so large that no man can stand against her. As Chris inflicts injury on the Colonel, he simply says, "My enemy is Dave, but since he's in your group, all of you must die." Meanwhile, Dave finds out Night Witch's address, who is a member of their team. Chris quickly takes his companions to that team member's location to eliminate her as well. As they leave, Mother Russia crushes the Colonel underfoot, meaning the Colonel is now dead. All this news had now spread, and after seeing it, Mandy could no longer stay silent. She told her father that even though she wasn't directly involved, he should investigate the case because Dave and his team of superheroes worked for good. They wanted to help people just like the police, the only difference was that they didn't wear police uniforms and didn't work for the government. Now we see Night Witch at her home when Chris arrives with all his people to assault her and possibly kill her. Some police officers come to fight them, but Mother Russia is below, who uses a gas cylinder to blow up both police cars. Shortly after, Chris and his companions come out, but they haven't killed Night Witch. Instead, they go out to torture the remaining members. We then see Mandy's stepfather, Marcus, who is at an important police meeting. The head members discuss the rising crime rate and state that they need to eliminate those who roam the streets wearing masks, regardless of whether they're doing good or bad. They must be killed, even if they belong to the Justice Society. Marcus listens attentively to these discussions. When Dave learns about the attack on Night Witch, he rushes to the hospital to see her. Night Witch is indeed gravely injured, and Dave heads straight to meet her. This is the first time he sees Night Witch in her true form, and she looks quite beautiful. Night Witch tells him how Chris has formed a team to eliminate all superheroes and create a one-sided team that will rule the city. She emphasizes that they need to be cautious and eliminate those people. After seeing Night Witch, Dave goes straight home, where he finds several police officers outside. In fact, the police are here to capture K-Cass, the superhero who is none other than Dave himself. But now Dave sees that the police have arrested his father because Dave's father claimed he was K-Cass to protect his son. As a result, the police officers took him away as a prisoner. When Dave reaches the jail as quickly as possible, he finds his father imprisoned. He urges his father to tell the truth, saying that he should inform the police that he is K-Cass and that they will release him instead of capturing Dave. But Dave's father tells him not to do that, insisting that he still has a long life ahead and shouldn't ruin it. He specifically tells Dave not to wear the superhero costume of K-Cass from now on and to never join the team. Reluctantly, Dave promises his father and begins to make every possible effort to get him out. He then goes to say goodbye to the remaining team members. Next, we see Chris's team of supervillains, which has a new member, Dave's friend, who has come wearing Dave's costume to listen in on what Chris and his team are planning. Inside the jail, two bodybuilders enter where Dave's father is imprisoned and start brutally attacking him. Shortly after, Dave receives a message on his mobile from Chris. Seeing this scene, Dave becomes terrified and starts crying, as Chris's companions have taken his father's life. He feels utterly helpless because he is now completely normal. The next day, he is at his father's funeral, feeling very miserable as he realizes he is now alone in life. Mandy is also present, supporting Dave during this critical time. She tells him that he must take revenge for all that has happened, but Dave feels completely broken inside. Suddenly, several people who work for Chris appear in the graveyard. They pull out advanced weapons and immediately begin firing at Dave and Mandy to kill them. There are loud explosions, and Mandy gets injured, collapsing unconscious. The attackers then swarm over Dave, trying to capture him, but he tries to fight back. However, due to their large numbers, they take Dave with them in a van. One of the gangsters approaches Dave to kill him, but suddenly someone shoots him in the head from above. It's Mandy, who is on top of the van, taking out the gangsters one by one with her gun. The driver of the van tries to shake Mandy off, and although she loses her balance, she still manages to shoot the driver. After a moment, Mandy meets up with Dave and makes him realize that he needs to become a superhero to avenge his father's death. Even though he made a promise, his father is no longer alive, and Mandy is reassuring him that they must eliminate evil. Dave understands her words well. He has come to terms with everything and prepares to take revenge on Chris as a superhero. Mandy then calls her father, Marcus, to inform him about everything Chris and his supervillain organization are planning. Chris has made several dynamic bombs that he intends to blast in different locations throughout the city, and there's very little time left to stop him. Marcus shares this information with his police force, and they start to assemble. However, that alone won't be enough, so Dave decides to call together all the superheroes in the city to deal with villains like Chris, effectively gathering a team. Now we see Chris with all his supervillains, who are preparing to blast their various types of dynamic bombs. Among them is one of Dave's friends, who realizes he's joined the wrong team. Just then, Dave and Mandy make a stylish entrance, and Chris starts laughing at them because their numbers are significantly fewer. Because the quantity of supervillains was very high and there were only 2 of them, they wondered what damage they could really cause. Dio tells Chris to chill a bit, and suddenly all the superheroes present in the city assemble there to eliminate evil. Now, 2 teams have formed, one of superheroes and the other of Chris's supervillains. Chris had brutally killed Dave's father, which made Dave furious. He starts punching Chris. Before long, a fierce battle erupts between the 2 teams. The superheroes begin overpowering and eliminating the supervillains. Dave and Chris fight their way upward, while Mandy is engaged in a fierce battle with Mother Russia. This is the most intense fight they've ever had, and neither is backing down. Mother Russia is landing severe blows on Mandy, not giving her a chance to attack. Just when it seems like Mother Russia is about to kill Mandy, Mandy pulls out a syringe from her pocket. However, Mother Russia grabs it, thinking it might be poison. She snatches it away and injects it into Mandy's body, but it turns out to be a booster, not poison, which gives Mandy extra energy and superpowers. With her newfound abilities, Mandy manages to escape, dodging Mother Russia's attacks and begins to damage her. Mother Russia gets no chance to retaliate, and Mandy ultimately defeats her using sharp pieces of a mirror. Meanwhile, we see Dave and Chris fighting at the top. Dave is landing heavy blows on Chris, pushing him toward a shattered mirror. As Chris begins to fall, Dave, acting out of humanity, grabs his hand, because that's what a superhero does, they save even the bad guys. But Chris deliberately lets go and falls into a water tank, which contains a shark that Chris had raised. The shark attacks Chris and kills him. Now, it's shown that all the supervillains have been defeated, and the superheroes have emerged victorious. Police officers arrive for identification, and they also include Mandy in their team, promising to protect the entire city together. After everything returns to normal, Mandy drops Dave off at his home. She tells him that she's going to New York to focus on her studies, but she'll return whenever they need her. They express their feelings for each other, and then Mandy leaves, marking the end of this superhero story.